Hey, it's Alex from Board Game Co. over here, and today we are going over, well, I was going to say my top 10 CMON games, but not really. This is going to be a ranking of the CMON games. Now, specifically, what I'm going to be looking at is not all CMON games. CMON has a lot of games. They started dabbling in a lot of other things that aren't their typical over-the-top big box Kickstarters. They have anything from Gizmos to Sheriff of Nottingham. They've really started to dabble in the board game sphere in a lot of different areas over the past few years. But in today's video, I am specifically focusing on their big box miniature games. They're big box over-the-top miniature games with one perhaps minor exception. Now from this list, I have played most. I did debate doing this in front of a computer and doing one of my screen where I look at the screen and cover the games there versus, you know, the games on my shelf. But since I actually have enough of these games in my collection, I figured I'll do it in person and I guess talk briefly about those I don't have. So to start off the list, let's cover 4 games that are on this list that I have not played. 4 games that I have not had the opportunity and or desire, and I'll go through each of those one at a time. To begin with, the first unplayed game on this list is Hate. Hate is a giant box that I actually did get my hands on at one point, but I didn't end up keeping it because I realized it wasn't going to hit the table anytime soon, so I turned around and sold it to get my money back, basically, before the market, you know, stabilized, before people stopped buying it. I wasn't sure how it would go. It does still sell, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to capitalize while the market was hot, and so I turned around and sold it. I do plan on getting it back one day at some point. There are enough YouTubers whose opinions I respect that seem to really enjoy the game. I know Board Game Coffee likes it. I know King of Average likes it. Those are both people who I generally like a lot of their games. Not everything, but I like a lot of their stuff. And so I certainly do want to get it back at some point. Next on this list is Munchkin Dungeon, which is actually behind me over here. Munchkin Dungeon, I recently did an unboxing video on that one. And while I planned on playing it that weekend, we ended up playing other games instead, and it just kind of fizzled a bit. I'm sure I will get it to the table sooner rather than later. As of right now, I have not played it. I'm skeptical whether my opinion will be that positive. It really did kind of look on the lighter side. That being said, lighter side is not necessarily a problem in and of itself. It's a question of, does it have a right fit with whatever group I'm playing with it, whether it's with my family, my kids, someone on the lighter side of the spectrum in terms of what they enjoy. If it has a fit in my collection, I will enjoy it regardless of how heavy it is, and if it doesn't, then I won't. Third on this list is A Song of Ice and Fire, which I also do not own. This is one I've never actually owned. I have debated getting my hands on it multiple times. I mean, I love Game of Thrones. I like CMON games. You would think there's a recipe for a good game in there somewhere, a good fit in there somewhere. But I've just been intimidated because of the fact that more than any other game is a classic miniatures game. Not a board game with miniatures, like most of these are, but rather a miniatures game. And miniatures games have historically not done that well for me. I used to play Warhammer back in the day, and I found them to be more tedious than enjoyable. A little bit more focus on measuring and figuring out who lines up against who. I tend to like board games with miniatures far more than I like miniatures games. So I have held off on acquiring it. That being said, I certainly plan on getting it one day. Then the fourth and last unplayed game on this list is The Godfather. Now, The Godfather I debated including on this at all because that one technically crosses this hybrid line of, is it a CMON board game? Is it a CMON miniatures game? I figured I own it on the shelf. I'll include it here. Why not? I have not gotten this one to the table. I've heard good things about it. They definitely did see a bit of a market dump in terms of just being at tons of the Marshalls, TJ's Maxx, wherever you go, you can find a copy for $10, $20 for it. So it definitely saw a plunge in the demand level of it. That being said, from what I've seen, the reviews are generally positive. I have not gotten my copy to the table yet. I have read the rulebook 2 or 3 times. I'm fully prepped to play it as soon as the right circumstances arise. Multiple times I've suggested it for game night. It just hasn't happened yet. With those 4 out of the way, we are going to go through the remaining 13 of these games. The remaining 13 of these miniature games that I have played. Now, for the most part, if games are similar, I group them together. We'll cover those as we go through the list. But I'm going to start with my least favorite, and then work my way up to my favorite. Number 1 on this list is Kaosball, which I started to grab the box and realized I don't actually have that. The first few on this list I don't actually have. Kaosball is one of the few CMON games that I really didn't enjoy that much. It's not that bad. To be very clear, I don't think it's a bad game. I played it once, only once, and it was okay. It's basically a football style game where you're trying to get control of the goal, and then you have these characters that can push people and manipulate the field, and they have a lot of teams that can differentiate how the various game plays out in terms of picking different teams. They have a whole roster of like 13 or something plus teams. it definitely was intriguing. The rule set wasn't that complicated, but in the end it felt a little bit too just take that back and forth without any real progression. I didn't feel rewarded while playing the game. I just felt it was kind of tedious. Oh, congratulations, I managed to do what I needed to do. I don't think it's a bad game by any means, but when comparing it to many of the other games in that genre, or even CMON two-player games in general, I just didn't see it as having a place in my collection. Number 2 on this list is Arcadia Quest, and I'm going to kind of combine Starcadia Quest, although I haven't played Starcadia Quest. I do want to play Starcadia Quest, just to see if it's different enough. Arcadia Quest is a game that I played, I got rid of it. I got back when I started getting into all these CMON games again, and I played it a few times, and then eventually got rid of it. Arcadia Quest, while the artwork I love, the miniatures I love, the gameplay universe I love, the upgrading your characters I love, what I didn't like, what I really didn't like, and I don't like it in any game, by the way, in any number of popular, well-liked games, I do not like this mechanic, which is last person hits and takes the pot. I hate that mechanic in any game. Regardless of the stature of the game, the pedigree of the game, whatever the game is, when a game has a thing where multiple people hit or crash on someone or in some way try to destroy something, and the last person who does it takes the whole pot, I hate that in gaming. It incentivizes people to hold back. It incentivizes the idea of opportunists. I like it far more in games like Kemet, where you are incentivized to attack, you're incentivized to jump in. I don't like it when games reward the person who stays back and then gives them the finishing blow or whatnot. Now I know I will get a lot of comments from, no, Arcadia Quest doesn't have, that's fine. For me and my group, my experience was that. My experience was it incentivized holding back, it incentivized a degree of almost luck of who managed to get that last shot in, who adventured too far, who pushed a little bit too much and died while someone else benefits from that. Additionally, I wasn't a huge fan of the semi-PvP, semi-PvE gameplay. It wasn't bad, not by a long shot, but I certainly was not a huge fan of it. It was okay. I liked a lot of things about Arcadia Quest. I liked the leveling up. I liked the campaign system, the progression. I do like the idea of Starcadia Quest being only 4 missions instead of 6. Makes it a little more accessible to finish everything off. I do like the modular nature of Starcadia Quest. In terms of, when I say like, I mean in theory. I haven't played Starcadia Quest. But I like the modular nature of being able to plug and play monsters more easily. There's a lot of things about Starcadia Quest that seem more appealing, and I do plan on giving it a go sometime, but I'm just not in a rush to do so. Arcadia Quest was a game that I enjoyed, but I did not love it. I just merely enjoyed it. Number 3 on this list is The Others. The Others, I will actually have a play this, not that, at some point between The Others and The World of Smog. I can't remember what I did. I think I did The World of Smog. I forget what videos I did at this point. But anyways, The Others is a game by Eric Lang. It is sort of similar, has similarities to Cthulhu Death May Die. It has aspects of corruption in terms of as your characters level up, or as your characters get more corrupt, they can take this form of corruption to take abilities and get more powerful die rolls. It is a game that I very much did enjoy. To be very clear, I enjoyed it. But I got rid of it because I felt other games did it better in my collection. I felt there was no reason to ever pull out The Others when I have The World of Smog, Rise of Moloch, when I have The Others, Cthulhu Death May Die. Now, while The Others did have its own spin, its own combination, and there were aspects of the gameplay that I certainly did enjoy, the full package at its core felt a bit more tedious than I'd like. It felt a bit more... It wasn't as rewarding as you went through the game. I mean, when I do my full play this, not that, I'll go more into detail, more in depth on the gameplay systems and why I prefer one versus the other. At the end of the day, The Others was a very promising system, and if it wasn't for CMON themselves putting out better games that compete with it, I would probably still own it. Next on this list is number 4 is Rivet Wars. Rivet Wars is a great game that I thoroughly enjoyed. I played it a lot with my daughter. I can't speak for the full tactical depth of it because I effectively was playing it against a 7-year-old, and I only ever played it against a 7-year-old. So I can't speak for how it would hold up in a larger ecosphere. I can't speak for how it would play against another adult, another gamer. I'm speaking only in my experience playing against my daughter, and I enjoyed it. I very much did enjoy it. It was fun. It was light. It had that miniatures aspect I just talked about, where you have to weigh up different unit types against each other. It had that, but it had it in an appealing, accessible form. It was definitely an easy game to jump into, and we played it a lot. We played it for months again and again, and thoroughly enjoyed it. But then eventually we got rid of it. It had its place, it had its time, and we kind of outgrew our desire to play it. It was a good game. I would happily play it again. It was light and dice chucking. It was very much, at least based on my playing experience, it was very much on the lighter side of things, but a good game nonetheless. One I would happily play again. Number 5 on this list, and this is where we start actually being able to show you boxes, because those first 4 are the ones that are no longer here. Everything else on this list I currently own. So, number 5, we have Massive Darkness. Massive Darkness is number 5 on this list primarily because while I enjoy it, while I have played it and liked it, I think the combat in Massive Darkness is a little bit too vanilla. It's a little bit too just add this dice and add that dice and then attach this modifier which will give that guy 3 more dice and this guy 2 more dice and this will take that color dice. It doesn't feel as elegant when you actually exercise your character's abilities and your growths and your whatnot. It feels mostly like they are small modifiers to the basic game mechanics as opposed to interesting and clever ways to implement things. When you play Cthulhu Death May Die, when you play Rum Bones, when you play many other CMON games or non-CMON games, the Too Many Bones, if you play Sword and Sorcery, if you play any of these games, your abilities feel unique and specialized and give you something cool to do. While I enjoy the dungeon crawler nature of Massive Darkness, while I think it is a good game and a good system, the abilities felt subpar. The abilities felt non-rewarding. Additionally, the campaign system I haven't even bothered trying because everyone says don't bother trying it. It seems like they tacked on a campaign system just to make everyone happy, but it wasn't actually that great, supposedly. I haven't played it myself. And that is why Massive Darkness is number 5. I do enjoy it. I do want to own it. I am very excited to see Massive Darkness Season 2, which CMON finally announced. Been waiting for years. I thought that this would never happen because it's been a long time. But apparently there's enough demand, enough of a public whatever, that they are doing Massive Darkness Season 2. I am hopeful. I am praying. Well, praying might be a bit intense. I am hopeful that they will take Massive Darkness, the core of Massive Darkness, the amazing miniatures of Massive Darkness, and release a slightly better system around it, a slightly more refined gameplay, better abilities, better leveling up. And I do very much hope that they release some sort of upgrade pack for the sheer amount of content that Season 1 has. There's a lot of content for this game, and again, it mostly comes down to small modifiers. If they can use those miniatures and give fans the opportunity to use them, to benefit, to have those miniatures in a new system, I think it would make a lot of people very happy. And we all know how patient people are on CMON Kickstarters, how tolerant they are in the comments as they don't get what they want. So we'll see how it plays out, but I am hopeful that CMON listens to their audience, and listens to their fans, and does release some sort of upgrade modifier pack or something to Massive Darkness. Number 6 on this list, let's see where we can stack these games as we go. Number 6 on this list is Besieged. Now Besieged is actually, this is probably one of those, I mean, if you've been watching my videos, you probably knew I liked this one already, but Besieged is one of those games that it is probably one of it's the ugly stepchild of CMON games, more so than any of the other games, including the ones I already rated as lower for myself, for my own collection. Besieged is the one, it's the red-headed stepchild, and I have a red-headed child, just so you know, but it's the red-headed stepchild of the CMON universe. It is one of the few CMON games that tends to sell below its value, that there's just no aftermarket demand. I would say Kaosball and Besieged are the CMON games that don't sell at their value, that don't sell. It's the 2 pledges you would have lost money on had you backed them. But I liked Besieged, and I ignored it for a long time because of its rating. I ignored it for a long time because no one seemed to have an interest. And then a good friend of mine told me, no, it's a good game. Play it, make sure to download this rule modifier, this rule adjustment that they had, that the designers released after the fact. Play it, and give it a shot, and see if you like it. I did do that. I also have an additional fan modified rule set or whatever it is, in which you always view the top cards of the deck. If you've played this game, you know what I'm talking about. But instead of drawing blindly from the various card decks, from the armory, from the market, from the wherever, you always see those cards, and so you can make more informed choices. It makes the game more tactical and less annoying and frustrating. And it's still hard, don't get me wrong. This is a game that I think it got dinged by a lot of people because it was way too hard out of the gate. Part of that was a bunch of rules that were left out of the game that the designers released after the fact, or they mentioned after the fact, and part of that is, again, I play with that modifier to the game to make it just hard enough that it's still really hard. You still do not win every game, but it is more appealing, it is more fun. It is one of the, I want to say it's one of the only, but it might be the only game in my collection that I actually play with a form of house rules. I tend to be a purist in that sense. I like what the designer did and not what other people house ruled, but this is definitely an exception to that. I do believe that Second Gate Games said they are coming out with another Kickstarter for Besieged at some point, but it will not be with CMON, or at least they said it won't be with CMON, and so we'll see how that plays. The miniatures in it are definitely appealing, so I would miss those if they weren't there. Number 7 on this list, and this one I'll get flack for being number 7 and not number 1 or not number whatever, but number 7 on this list is Rising Sun. This box is on its side. Rising Sun is a game that I do enjoy it. but I just haven't played it in a very long time. I played it a few times when I first got it, a long time ago. This is one of those I covered when I talked about games I hadn't played in over a year that I'm still keeping. Rising Sun I played back in the day when I first got into, well, not first got into, when I first got it from the Kickstarter. I played it a bunch of times with my group. We enjoyed it. We liked it. I have tried getting it to the table since then, but I haven't. I do like the core of Rising Sun. I do like the miniatures of Rising Sun. I have minor nitpicks to the game, which is why it is lower down on my list than many, many others on this list. I have nitpicks about the way the combat system is. I have nitpicks about the way a giant freaking dragon of a monster can be destroyed just as easily as a single character. I have nitpicks to why I don't like the game as much as others do, or as much as perhaps I should. I do plan on playing it more. It's certainly a game that, between the production quality, between the games that I have enjoyed, between the negotiation, the manipulation, and the area control, it is a game that I do want to get to the table again and more and sooner and faster and play it more with the different modifiers, the different decks that you can use to modify the gameplay and change it up. I do want to play this game. I do like this game. It is not, you know, a game I don't like. It's just a game I haven't played in a long time. I hope it's a better game. I hope I keep it. I know many people have said that for them it was good, it was amazing, it was better than Blood Rage. Many people have said they echoed my feelings, they echoed my sentiments. They didn't love it as much as they would have liked to have loved it. I will have to see where I land in that discussion, but for right now, Rising Sun is certainly a game I like, but it is lower down on my list when I am rating CMON games. Which brings us to number 8 on our list. Number 8 is going to be Rum Bones, or specifically Second Tide. I'm including the whole Rum Bones universe in this, but for myself, I'm focusing on Second Tide because I only jumped into it when Second Tide came out, and I just think it's I can't say better because I never played the original, but it certainly does the trick. It certainly does the job. It provides a good universe, a good experience. Now, Rum Bones is my go-to two-player, head-to-head, heavy, not heavy, it's on the lighter side, but it's my go-to two-player skirmish game, so to speak. It's a MOBA game. It's a game where you level up your characters, you have these heroes, you have these grunts, these minions that run across the ships and run back and forth trying to swarm your enemy's deck. But in the process, you are constantly trying to level up your heroes, and it captures that MOBA feel very well, incredibly well for a board game. At the same time, it is rewarding. As you level up your characters, as you pick this character and you level up that ability and you do that, you start to feel cool. You remember how I talked about Besieged, and not Besieged, in Massive Darkness? It feels a little bit too just, you know, about the numbers. In Rum Bones, it does not. Certainly numbers and modifiers are at play, but there are fun abilities at play. There's like grappling hooks that you can jump across the ship. You can move that. You can put these conditions on that character. There's different ways to address the game state, different ways to level up your heroes, different ways to react. Things that as a character moves across the ship, you'll flip your token and jump across and immediately attack them. There's many different ways to level up your roster of heroes and engage and attack the enemy players. It is a thoroughly enjoyable experience. My only real critique is I just have too much content for it. This is one of those things that certainly suffers from content bloat, that I have too much stuff on the table, too many expansions, too many heroes, that sometimes it's a little harder to get out than I would like. But when I do, and it's only 2 or 3 times a year, but when I do, I thoroughly enjoy it. And the nice part is I've played it enough that I can jump straight back in, even only at 2 or 3 times per year. But I enjoy it. Everyone I've played it with has enjoyed it. It is fun. You feel like you're doing stuff. I will also note, because people might point out the inconsistency in my own opinions, there is an aspect of the Kraken in this game in which you can possibly have a last blow on the Kraken and you winner takes all. I acknowledge that. It is miniaturized enough, it is small enough, it is localized enough that I am okay with it in this game. But even in this game, I don't love that mechanic, but it's not the focus of the whole game, it's one specific subset within the game. Overall, Rum Bones is a thoroughly enjoyable 2-player experience. I have never played it in teams. I would like to play it in teams, I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I really, really like bringing these guys up to the table. I really like leveling up the characters. I really like feeling like I do things that make my team more powerful, that make myself feel more rewarded. And I highly recommend Rum Bones. Where are we up to? We're up to number 9 on this list. Number 9 on this list is World of Smog. The World of Smog, Rise of Moloch. Now, this is one of CMON's lesser hyped up games. I thoroughly enjoy it. It is not poorly rated, don't get me wrong. It's not like Prestige, which has a low rating. This has a high rating from those that have played it, but it certainly has a smaller audience. It has a smaller audience in the gaming world, and certainly less popularity and renown. In fact, I ignored it at first because of the World of Smog on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was a totally different game that I had played and not liked at all, and so I ignored this at first, thinking it was just another game. And yet it's not. It is the same universe, but a totally different gameplay experience. This is a one versus many. This is a game that it is very similar to the others in certain aspects of the game. It's a one versus many. One character plays as Moloch, and one player plays as the gentleman who have these heroes that can navigate around the board trying to pursue different objectives, while the Moloch character tries to stop them. It is so tactically rewarding. I mean, this game, I played this right after I first played Star Wars Imperial Assault. I thought this one was such a better game. It drew me in far more thematically. And I like Star Wars, don't get me wrong. But thematically wise, this drew me in far more. It felt dark and twisted. And I don't like this kind of world in general. But this game managed to pull me in. This game managed to suck me into the universe. And it did so in a way that every single time I play this game, it feels so tense. It feels so tight. It feels like you are constantly just tic-tac away from each other in terms of who has the edge. And the missions are so asymmetrical. There's no question that you cannot walk into this game without ending up with some sort of opinion of who's going to say, well, this side's better, that side's better, this side has the edge, in this mission, that person. But every time I've played it, it has been very tight, been very close. Because of the campaign nature of the game, because you play a bunch of missions in a row, and because you can get more powerful as you win different scenarios, it can have that effect that in the last few missions, one character will already have a dominant advantage. But if the first few missions go back and forth, then that won't happen at all. It's only if the first few missions go to one character, then you'll start to feel that way. But otherwise, it is so tight, it is so tense. As you get character abilities or weapons or different things to level up your characters as a gentleman, or as Moloch, as you get different, Moloch stones, or you get different cards that will give your characters certain dark powers that you can manipulate, and you can manipulate the board state, you can spread fire, you can target gentlemen, do these mystical, magical strikes against them, whatever, however. I love the world of Rise of Moloch. I really appreciate the world. The stretch goals add a lot of missions and encounters and different characters and creatures you can fight against. And again, the characters in this game, both good and evil, are so unique. What they do to the game, they really, really shift up. I'm just beating down a massive darkness over here, but CMON has so much imagination when they want to, and they certainly applied it to the world of Smog, Rise of Moloch. Next up on this list, at number 10, we have Dogs of War. Dogs of War is another slightly lesser known CMON game. It's well known, I would say more so than Rise of Moloch, but not as much as many of these others. But again, the people who do like it love it. It has a passionate fan base, passionate audience. Dogs of War is a game where you are effectively mercenaries, you're mercenaries trying to throw your weight behind different houses, and trying to, as you throw your weight behind houses, you'll acquire different tokens of gratitude or whatever you want to call it, but they'll effectively give you they'll give you scoring benefits depending on how well those houses do. It is a game all about picking the right side at the right time and convincing your other fellow players to pick the right side, ideally yours, and through picking the right side, win the game. There is so many different ways to subtly adjust for the board state. There's so many ways to pursue a victory, whether it's seeking favor in the right houses, whether it's effectively convincing other players to do what you want, whether it's convincing two players to go head to head because they're totally winning and I'm not winning at all, whether it's just straight up going for victory points at certain spots. It is one of the most enjoyable 5-player games I own, and it comes in at a 2-hour punch. It is so easy to get to the table. It's so easy to play. You can get 2 or 3 games of this in one game night. I really enjoy Dogs of War. I really enjoy the nature of the board state as it unfolds. I really enjoy the tactical choices you make as to who to back, when to pivot and adjust, when to betray your own side. You might support one house and then come back on the other side supporting the other house because the tides of battle have shifted and you've now seen that it's easier to focus one direction than the other. I love the shifting nature of the gameplay of Dogs of War, and I highly recommend it. Next up on this list, we have a 3-4, so to speak, a threefer. We have the Zombicide Series over here. Now, the Zombicide Series I'm going to go through in its own subsection in terms of, this is the only one I really covered the subsection aspect of it. But Zombicide is my third favorite CMON series or universe. Now, I never played the originals. I never played season 1, 2, or 3. I started with Black Plague, then went to Green Horde, then went to Invader. And my preference for them is in that reverse order. I most prefer Black Plague, middle one is Green Horde, and I least prefer Invader. My disclaimer there is I certainly have played Black Plague the most. I certainly have enjoyed it the most, given it the most game time, and through that given myself the most opportunity to explore that universe, to explore that world more. The nature of the characters, the abilities, the powers. Green Horde I have played a few times, not enough to really enjoy it. I find it to be similar to Black Plague, but a little bit more annoying in the movement mechanics of the game. A little bit more annoying in the hedges and the way different things that they added to the game. I felt they kind of took it away from it, but again, I have not played it enough. And then Invader is my least favorite of the three, but again, I know a lot of people like Invader the most. I need to play Invader more and see if it's for me. But with that little ranking aside, let's focus on Black Plague. Black Plague, or the general Zombicide universe. Zombicide is just fun. I don't have a better way to put it. It is, I know a lot of people feel this way about Arcadia Quest. For me, it's Zombicide. I love being in Zombicide. I love being in the universe. I love breaking out the board, setting it up, having a bunch of zombies and abominations chase me around the board as me and my friends try to figure out a way to win the board, to win the game, to win the board state. As we try to figure out how are we going to deal with this abomination that showed up on turn 1. What are we going to do? We just broke down the door, zombies poured out, abomination spawned. We have no idea how we're going to survive. And so we run, we flee, we search the rooms, we find some Dragonfire. Maybe we find a sword that from one of the expansions that levels up or whatever that can cast Dragonfire on whatever. It is immensely fun to play Zombicide. It is immensely fun to tackle hordes of zombies as they rush at you. And I highly recommend some of these expansions. The wolves from Wolfsburg are so much fun to play against. They move three times as fast as regular zombies. The archers from the Deadeye Walkers, the archers are, again, they totally changed the board state. Now you still have to account for ranged zombies. There is so much fun in the Zombicide universe. Every single time I play it, it is an adventure. You're leveling up your characters, you're finding equipment, you are attacking hordes of zombies. Zombicide Black Plague for a short time was possibly amongst my favorite, well, it is amongst my favorite games. It did get outranked in the CMON universe, but just barely. I really, really like playing Zombicide Black Plague. I assume that eventually, over time, I will probably get rid of Green Horde. I will probably get rid of Invader. I have Zombicide 2.0 on its way, and I just don't have enough shelf space or enough time to play all these universes. But I love the Zombicide universe. I think the Zombicide universe was just a great entry point for anyone into the hobby. It is fun, it is simple, it is easy to teach, it gives you that adventure feeling. You know, it's far more accessible than games like Gloomhaven. Games like Gloomhaven that will hopefully bring many to the hobby, including Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which will hopefully bring many more. But at the end of the day, Zombicide is just easy. You teach it to someone in 2 minutes, not 2 minutes, you need like 15 minutes. Teach someone to 15 minutes, and then just go straight to rolling dice, attacking zombies, and having fun. Next up on this list, we have Cthulhu Death May Die. Cthulhu Death May Die is my top 4 games of all time, I think, somewhere in there. And it's my second favorite CMON game. Cthulhu Death May Die it basically took over Zombicide as my second favorite CMON game, but it has the same core generalities of Zombicide. It has that aspect of leveling up characters. It has that aspect of running around the board trying to accomplish objectives. It has these variable monsters and these cool miniature sculpts that will definitely try to slaughter you as much as they possibly can. But there's a few reasons I like it more than Zombicide, and just barely more, barely. Zombicide is more of a romp in the way you can slaughter the bad guys, and I really like that about Zombicide. But in Cthulhu Death May Die, what I really appreciate most is the leveling up of your characters is far more engaging, because as you level up in Cthulhu Death May Die, as you advance, you are effectively going insane. You're slowly having a dance with darkness, and you will go insane. You will have characters who die as they level up too much, get all their abilities, and then just straight up go insane, or are lost from the game. You will lose games even as you grow more powerful, dancing with your loss of sanity and figuring out a way of how to strike that balance between becoming powerful enough that you can actually win the game versus losing it all and drifting into the darkness. Cthulhu Death May Die is an immensely enjoyable experience every single time I play it. Overall, I prefer Cthulhu Death May Die to Black Plague. But again, just barely. If you had to pick one of these two universes, I would genuinely base my recommendation based off of what you prefer more, Cthulhu or zombies. There are differences in this world, enough differences that I do recommend owning both. And if you like one of them, I very much recommend owning both. Get the other one, try it out. These are incredible gameplay experiences that I cannot get enough. Cthulhu Death May Die is my most played game of 2020. It was my most played game of 2019. I just love getting this game to the table. It helps that it can be played solo, it can be played with 2, 3. I don't recommend 4 as much, but even 4 I have had fun. I think it can be played with 5, but I really do not recommend it with 5. Let's see over here. 1 to 5. I would not recommend this with 5 at all. Even 4 was pushing it. And finally, in the number 1 spot, or because I'm counting low to high, in the number 13 spot, and if you've been watching my stuff, this is no surprise to you, we have Blood Rage. Blood Rage is my favorite CMON game of all time. It is my number 1 game of all time. At a certain point in life, it may no longer become my number 1 game. I don't know when that will happen. I don't know what to tell you. I know Innis is definitely a game that is always a tight contender, but Blood Rage manages to always eke it out in terms of my favorite game to play. Blood Rage is by Eric Lang. It is a masterpiece of a game, and I know people don't always love it. I know overall it gets a lot of love for sure, but then every once in a while I see a comment from someone who just didn't appreciate it. And I recognize we all have our tastes. I mean, I've definitely dumped on some of the top 100 and said this is just not a game I would want to play. But for Blood Rage, this is a game I always want to play. This is a game I am always down for. I'm always in the mood for, with the right player count, I should say, which to me is like 3 to 5, really. Ideally with 4. 4 is the best player count. Blood Rage is an incredible game, and for a variety of reasons. It has tight area control that matters so much where you are, when you're there, how you implement the process of conquering each territory, pillaging each territory. It is a game with drafting that is so tense, you have to stand up the entire game. The drafting in this game is just over the top. Every single hand of cards you're dealt is another opportunity to, what will I pick? When will I pick it? How will I pick it? Will I pick a combat card because I'm going to have to be in battles and I have to win those battles when it comes up? Do I pick a quest card because ultimately that's how I'll upgrade my stats, by applying quests at the right time for the right reason? But I have to get them, and I also have to pick that combat card. But at the same time, there's upgrade stats. Do I upgrade my warriors now or later? Do I acquire this monster? It'll help me in round 2, but I can get the monster in round 3 instead. And the ship monster, the sea monster, he's so powerful, but he's so expensive, and I don't have enough rage to get him. What do I do in this game? I have been playing this game for years now, and I've played it, I don't know, dozens and dozens of times, and I still find new opportunities. I still find new pathways, new strategies. The last time I played this, I went with an entirely new strategy I've never tried before, and it was immensely powerful. I killed it in the game. Blood Rage is so much fun to play. If you like drafting, I recommend Blood Rage. If you like area control, I recommend Blood Rage. If you like feeling powerful, I recommend Blood Rage. If you like red and black boxes, well, I mean, I recommend Blood Rage. It's red and black, right? Yeah, I mean, also Zombicide. That's another good choice. If you like red and black boxes, I recommend Zombicide Black Plague, and I recommend Blood Rage. I love Blood Rage. It is my favorite game of all time, and it will continue to be my favorite game of all time for the foreseeable future. That is my list of CMON games, surrounded by these boxes, these hordes of miniatures that take up a good quarter of my shelf space in my collection. I am clearly a fan of CMON, if you haven't noticed yet. I don't love all their stuff. I'm pretty sure Munchkin Dungeon will be gone. Godfather will have to see how well it holds up against other games. Some of these other games in this collection, like multiple Zombicides, will be gone. But I generally enjoy a lot of the content that CMON pushes out. I generally enjoy a lot of their games. They make fun games. They range the gauntlet from light, accessible dice chuckers to a game like Blood Rage, which many will say is terrible and luck-based and whatever, but I love this game. I hope you enjoyed this video. Whew. This is possibly one of the longest videos I've done that wasn't a Kickstarter roundup video, but it was fun for me. I hope you had fun as well along the way. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. As usual, you can subscribe down below, comment, tell me what your favorite CMON game is, tell me which ones you hate, tell me if maybe you've never played a CMON game and this list has been completely a waste of time for you, or just interesting, I don't really know. And finally, for today's recommended video, I'll be linking to a game to a conversation between Tom Vasel and Eric Lang. This is something I don't really do on the channel much. I try to stay away from politics as much as possible, but I will say that as someone who tries to stay out of politics, I really appreciated Tom Vasel's talk with Eric Lang. It was illuminating, it was interesting, it was a it was not an attack against every single white person on planet Earth. It was a conversation about Black Lives Matter, and it was the furthest. I know people don't like politics. A lot of people don't like politics. I know some people expect responses. Some people don't want responses. Some people get sick of it. It's no matter. You can't make everyone happy no matter what you do. But I will say, as someone who doesn't like politics entering my board game world, I found it was well done. It was tasteful. It was delivering another person's point of view. I mean, to be frank, a black person's point of view in the gaming community, but not done from a stance of all white people are evil or anything over the top. Rather from a stance of understand that everyone has different experiences. Understand that there are nuances to the way we communicate, nuances to the way we do things, the way we whatever. And again, I understand that as many of you will appreciate me referencing something like this and sharing it and trying to spread that. I know I'll get a few people who don't like the fact that I brought politics into this channel. For those of you, I do recommend watching the video. It was, again, the best way I can put it is by saying that I don't like the stuff. I really like the separation of the two. Not I don't like social issues. I don't like the combination of social issues in the board game world. But as someone who has that opinion, I thought it was incredibly well done. I thought it was eye-opening, and it was delivered very well. I highly recommend watching that video. Until next time, I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this has been fun. Have a good one.